Fear, it's lurking behind every corner, waiting to hold you back from living your best life. Hi, I'm Leslie from Master Your Moment. If you are feeling trapped by anxiety, uncertain about where your fears come from, or overwhelmed by how to face them, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to share 3 powerful ways for you to identify the source of your fear and 3 practical techniques to confront and overcome them. Let's tackle this together and start mastering our fears today. Have you been in a situation where you go to this meeting or a class or a group of people or gathering of some kind that you don't know very many people in, and so in order for all of you to get to know each other, they're like, let's go around the room and let's say one thing about yourself that's fun or exciting fact. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not fun, I'm not exciting, I'm just a boring, regular, everyday person. What am I gonna say? And then each person goes, and then when you think of an idea, then that next person says your idea, and then you're like, crap, now I can't use that idea. Now what am I gonna do? And it becomes so fearful and you become so anxious. I've been in this situation of multiple times, and every time it brings me some anxiety, and yet I still have not prepared for this scenario of being in a group of people and not knowing what to say when it's my turn to speak. But if we took a tactic of planning out exactly what we're going to say, or knowing and coming back from that experience and saying, okay, next time I'm in this experience, next time I know that I can anticipate that this anxiety will occur, and journal. Like, that's such an amazing tool for us, is journaling and coming up with some idea, some plan of attack of how we're going to overcome this or how we want to respond in the next situation. Journaling can also help you figure out what are the themes that are surrounding your fears. So if you're really unsure about what you're afraid of or where these anxieties are coming from, write down exactly what's happening in the day and what's happened right before that anxiety came about. And then as you continue to write, you'll notice themes or triggers so that you can start working and processing on how to deal with that fear. Another way to do this, because obviously there are a lot of people who do not like to journal or are not great at writing. And so sometimes it's easier to talk to a friend about what is bothering you or your fears and your anxieties. And the friend or support system can give you a different perspective. Sometimes they can give you advice. Sometimes they can lay out a new picture for you so that you can understand, is this a rational fear or an irrational fear? And then moving forward from that, figuring out how to proceed and rearranging some thoughts in your mind, especially if it's an irrational fear. But seeking support from a family, friend, or mentor can be really crucial in overcoming fears and understanding them. Sometimes fears come from past experiences, so you may not really always know exactly. Yes, you may understand that you had this particular fear, but you may not understand, why did that happen? Like, how did I get to the point that I was afraid of this? And sometimes it's compounding different experiences or a trauma that you had experienced. Like this one time when I was pledging for my social club, and it was Hell Night. And one of the things we were supposed to do and required of us was we were in different corners of this house and we had to keep our eyes closed. So I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was going on. Didn't know what to expect next. I mean, very, very fearful and anxious, right? So I'm sitting in this corner and they're like, are you in 5 minutes, or they didn't even give me a time frame. In a minute, you're going to have to come in and share a talent of yours to the entire social club. And of course, I'm freaking out. What am I going to do? I have no idea. I don't have a talent. What am I supposed to do? I can't sing, I can't dance. I'm just like, I'm going to be standing in front of them looking like a fool. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I went and I had no idea. And so when I don't have those ideas, I freeze. And I whimpered like a little puppy and then closed my eyes. I mean, how embarrassing is that? To be so afraid that you freeze up and you don't even know what to do. And now, every time that I have another interaction where I'm in front of a group of people, that's where my planning comes into play, because if I haven't planned something, I'm going to be that much more anxious about how am I going to handle this situation? What am I going to do? I can anticipate it. In that scenario, I couldn't anticipate it. So when scenarios pop up that I haven't anticipated, that I haven't planned for them, I typically freeze. And it's very difficult to have a plan in place when you have things that come up unexpectedly. So from these experiences, we can have underlying beliefs or assumptions about yourself. So when I'm talking about my scenario of being in front of a group of people unexpectedly and asking to perform at some degree or some level, it's very fearful. And so when I freeze and don't perform, what does that say about me? What perceptions and beliefs do I end up having about myself? Maybe that I'm going to be rejected by these people because I can't do what they want from me. Maybe there's this underlying belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, that everybody else should be able to do this. Why can't I be able to do this? There's all these things that come along with those anxieties that I fully grasp and understand, because I've believed those things about myself before as well. But when we get to those beliefs of how our fears have affected us, we want to decide, is this a rational fear or is this irrational fear? So just because I freeze in a particular situation or setting, does that mean, or I flee or I fight, whatever the case may be in dealing with a fear, does that mean that I'm not enough, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy enough? Does it? No, it's one particular situation. So just because I'm not, that a strength of mine is not to perform on spot, does not take away from my worth being as a human, and neither does it yours. Fears can actually come to us because of things like social media or social norms or the expectations that we put on ourselves or that society puts on us, or that we say are deemed to be specific fears. Let's take for an example, spiders and snakes. That is something that typically most people are afraid of, that it's a common fear to be afraid of spiders or snakes. But in the long run, how many people are getting bit by spiders and bit by snakes and dying from them is very, very rare. So it's kind of an irrational fear, but yet anxieties and fears can come in different forms and ways. So there are three of those ways that we can kind of target into a specific theme or area, I guess you could say. And those would be like, you have your immediate fears where you're in immediate danger, like when I did not anticipate having to speak in front of people. Or it could be an anticipatory fear. So, like, you know that you're fixing to speak in front of someone and you could have planned, but just the anticipation of having to be in front of someone can be fearful. Another immediate one would be being in a car accident or something like that, or a snake jumping out in front of you. And then anticipatory, you still have other fears like your first day of school or starting something new, going to a new place, feeling like you're going to be a failure at something, things like that. And then you also have your social fears. So any kind of interaction between another person where you may feel the sense of rejection between them or an unworthiness, or a fear of judgment. Those can be other fears that people need to overcome, and finding themes around which one of those is something that happens to me the most often. Is it an immediate fear where that can most likely be rational? Is it something that I'm anticipating? Or is it a social fear? I would say more of my fears would be in that area of social fears, because I think that I can control a lot of the other things, but in social situations, when you're interacting with another person, you have a lot less control in those situations. When an immediate fear happens, your amygdala is triggered, and that goes to your hypothalamus, and all these things in your brain happen to make adrenaline start running, and you have these physical sensations. You're breathing faster to try to get more oxygen in your body. All these things are occurring, right? Well, mindfulness is one of the best strategies that you can use when you feel like you're in immediate danger. Now that we've talked about understanding fear, let's talk about how we can confront fear. There are three things that you can do. One is to have a gradual exposure to your fears. Another is cognitive restructuring. And the third is to use those mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Having a gradual exposure to a fear can be really good to help people overcome specific fears. So, for instance, my daughter, she's 16 and she could start driving, but she doesn't want to. She's very anxious about being on the road and driving. So, when you want to start with gradual exposure, you want to start at the smallest step possible. So that might be that she sits in the car and she turns it on and she rearranges the mirror and she checks her rear view mirrors and she changes her seat up and down. She presses the brake and she may even put it into gear and she puts it back into gear. Just the small step of maybe just sitting in the car, turning it on, turning it off, noticing all the things and features of the car to get very familiar with it and to practice that pretty regularly for a while. The next step she might do is to just back out, or maybe back out is a little much, but just moving the car up and down the driveway, right? Just going up and down the driveway. No other cars are going to be near you. A lot of times we usually start in a parking lot that's empty with no other vehicles and drive around in circles, and maybe do that every day for as long as it takes for her to get comfortable with driving around in the parking lot, parking into a spot, backing out of the parking spot, that kind of thing. Then the next thing might be to just drive around on a road where there's very few cars, some kind of back road, and do that for a month, 2 months, however long that takes. We haven't had the time to really dig in and do this, but when you start with a fear and you do gradual steps to help build confidence and move up in a fear ladder, then you're going to overcome your fears a lot easier. So let's go with another fear that some people have would be like social anxiety. So maybe you could start with, when you go into a store, just looking at people, looking at their eyes, noticing them. Then the next step might be that you might smile at someone and say hello. So it could be complete strangers. It's not going to mean anything, right? You just, as you pass somebody, if they make eye contact with you, you say hello. Then you can build up from there. Then the next time when you're at the cash register, you might say, "How are you doing?" and start with some small talk. Then you can gradually move up from there in other scenarios. In a group setting, you might work on planning about how you're going to speak or what you're going to say to someone else. And maybe you overheard someone talk about something and you might say, okay, when I overhear someone say something, then I might ask a question about that, right? Build up your momentum gradually to overcome fears that you might be encountering. Next, we have cognitive restructuring. So cognitive means thinking and your brain. And so that is restructuring or thinking differently about the thoughts that you're having. So when you are maybe having some social anxiety, like I can't speak, I don't know what to say, what am I going to do? When you're having those thoughts, then cognitive restructuring comes in and says, okay, what can I say differently? How can I rephrase this thought in a way that is going to be more inspiring and motivational for me? A technique that you can use for cognitive restructuring with your fears is first to journal and bring awareness to what are those thoughts. When you have a fear, you've figured out the themes, you've figured out the triggers, then you really want to focus in on your thoughts. Write down what those thoughts are, make kind of a list of these are the things that I'm thinking. And then you want to, these are your negative thoughts, right? Then on the other side of the page, you want to list, okay, how can I rephrase this in a positive way? What else can I say to myself? And these can end up being positive affirmations. I can overcome my fears. I'm greater than my fears. Whatever the case may be, I am good enough. I am worthy enough. I do have social skills. I may not know what to say in this moment, but I can speak up later on, or I can come up with a question later on. Whatever the case may be, it may be that in this moment, I'm not able to do how I want to do, but I can in the future. Or it could be, I'm feeling very anxious. I will learn how to, maybe I'll learn how to handle this when this is over. I'll think about this later and maybe I'll learn how do I want to respond. If I don't know how to respond in this moment, then I'm going to write that down and I'm going to learn from that and know how to respond in the future. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques can really, really help with anxieties and fears. So when you start to bring awareness to, okay, maybe my breath is getting a little heavy. Maybe my body's getting a little tense. I'm feeling this emotion and I think I'm afraid. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid. Something's happening, right? When you start to feel those, then you need to bring into an awareness of and name it. Like, I'm feeling fearful. I'm feeling anxious. And sit with it. Like, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be anxious. We're all going to do it. It's an automatic, natural human instinct. It's figuring out how you want to respond in that moment that's crucial, though. And so doing a breathing technique and taking in some fresh air in a better way than, which is what my daughter will end up doing when she's in the car trying to drive. Then you want to slow your breath down. And one of the techniques that I really like to do is I want to start with holding my hand on my chest and my hand on my belly. And you take in a deep breath and you want your belly to expand out. And then as you exhale, you want your belly to be in. And you want your chest to be as still as possible. Because when you breathe through your belly, you're getting in more oxygen because your breath is deeper. So it's a really good technique. Let's practice that again with me. Just breathe in. And you want to hold it. Breathe out. And you can do that 2 or 3 times. And you can just automatically feel your body relax. And you want to try different things, okay? You know, like the tensing of the muscles and relaxing them. Let's tensen your feet, right? And you want to relax them. And you want to tense your legs and relax them. And your hips, squeeze and relax. And tighten your muscles in your stomach. And relax and tighten your arms. And relax and tighten your fist. And relax, and tighten your shoulders, and relax. And then as you tighten and relax and you do different techniques, you can also do, the 5 senses, which is what are some 5 things that you see. I see my dog. I see a plant. I see a tree and some flowers. Start noticing things. What are you smelling? I smell fresh air. What are you hearing? I hear birds tweeting in the background. I hear my dog breathing on the floor in front of me. When you can do that, you're bringing your body and your awareness into this moment and what's happening, and then you can respond a lot better when you bring your mind back to that present moment. There are also probably hundreds or thousands of meditations on anxiety, on overcoming your fears. YouTube is a great resource, okay? They have a lot of really talented professional people on there that can provide a lot more information. I'll be doing some more videos on overcoming fear. One of the things that I think can be really great and beneficial in this is to have a meditation space and already practice those breathing techniques, because if you're practicing it on a daily basis when maybe you're not having the anxiety or you're not having the fear, then you're more likely to be able to know how to do it very quickly and easily when you're in that moment that you need it to happen. So you can watch this video here about how I set up my meditation space and the things that I used in it that goes through those 5 sentences as well. You would highly enjoy that video. And thanks for watching, and subscribe, comment something that has inspired you or a fear that you are going to work on overcoming, and go master your next moment.